The night of June 24, 1982, was unremarkable in most parts of the world. The skies were quiet, the stars shimmered faintly through the thin veil of the atmosphere, and the earth below continued its ceaseless rotation. But high above the Indian Ocean, a Boeing 747-236B, registered as GBDXH and operated by British Airways, was carving its way through the darkness. Designated as Flight 9, the aircraft was en route from London Heathrow to Auckland, New Zealand, with scheduled stops in Bombay, Madras, Kuala Lumpur, Perth, and Melbourne. On board were 248 passengers and 15 crew members, all unaware that this routine flight would soon become one of the most harrowing episodes in aviation history. The aircraft, a marvel of modern engineering, was a testament to human ingenuity. Its 4 Rolls-Royce RB211 engines hummed steadily, propelling the massive machine through the night at a cruising altitude of 37,000 feet. The cabin was a microcosm of tranquility. Passengers dozed in their seats, flight attendants moved quietly through the aisles, and the soft glow of reading lights illuminated the faces of those engrossed in books or magazines. The flight deck, too, was a picture of calm. Captain Eric Moody, a seasoned pilot with over 11,000 flying hours, was in command. Beside him sat Senior First Officer Roger Greaves and Senior Flight Engineer Barry Townley Freeman, both equally experienced and confident in their roles. The crew had no reason to expect anything other than a routine continuation of their journey. As the aircraft approached the Indonesian archipelago, the first signs of trouble began to emerge, though they were subtle and easily overlooked. The night sky, which had been clear and star-filled, started to take on an unusual haze. The crew noticed a faint, almost imperceptible glow on the horizon, but it was dismissed as a trick of the light, or perhaps the reflection of the moon on the ocean below. The weather radar, a crucial tool for detecting storms and turbulence, showed no significant activity. Yet, unbeknownst to the crew, the radar was not designed to detect volcanic ash, a substance that would soon prove to be their greatest adversary. The source of the haze was Mount Galunggung, a volcano located on the island of Java, approximately 110 miles southeast of Jakarta. Earlier that day, the volcano had erupted, spewing vast quantities of ash and gases into the atmosphere. The ash cloud, invisible to the naked eye at night, had risen to an altitude of more than 40,000 feet, directly into the path of Flight 9. Volcanic ash is a notorious hazard to aircraft, capable of causing severe damage to engines, airframes, and critical systems. But in 1982, the aviation industry's understanding of this threat was still in its infancy. Pilots were not routinely trained to recognize or respond to volcanic ash encounters, and the tools to detect such phenomena were rudimentary at best. As Flight 9 entered the ash cloud, the first indication of trouble came in the form of a faint, acrid odor that permeated the cabin. Passengers and crew alike began to notice a strange, sulfur-like smell, but it was not immediately alarming. Moments later, the aircraft's exterior started to exhibit unusual phenomena. A faint, glowing halo, known as St. Elmo's fire, appeared around the wings and fuselage. This eerie electrical discharge, caused by the interaction of the aircraft with the charged particles in the ash cloud, was both mesmerizing and unsettling. Inside the cockpit, the crew observed static discharges on the windshield, accompanied by a faint crackling sound. The instruments, however, remained stable, and there was no immediate cause for concern. The calm was short-lived. Within minutes, the situation escalated dramatically. The first engine to fail was the number 4 engine, located on the right wing. The crew noticed a sudden drop in engine pressure and temperature, followed by the illumination of the engine. Fire warning light. Almost simultaneously, the remaining 3 engines began to exhibit similar symptoms. One by one, they flamed out, leaving the aircraft in a terrifying silence. The constant hum of the engines, a sound so familiar that it had become almost imperceptible, was replaced by an eerie quiet. The Boeing 747, a machine designed to stay aloft, through the power of its engines, was now a glider, descending rapidly through the night sky. The crew's training and experience immediately kicked in. Captain Moody took control of the aircraft, while Senior First Officer Greaves and Flight Engineer Townley Freeman worked to diagnose the problem and attempt to restart the engines. The passengers, though unaware of the full extent of the crisis, could sense that something was wrong. The cabin lights flickered, and the air conditioning system began to fail, causing the temperature to rise. Oxygen masks dropped from the overhead compartments, adding to the growing sense of unease. Flight attendants moved quickly to reassure passengers, their calm demeanor masking their own anxiety. Outside, the situation was dire. The aircraft was descending at a rate of several thousand feet per minute, and the crew had only a limited amount of time to regain control. The loss of all 4 engines was an almost unprecedented event, and the chances of restarting them at such a high altitude were slim. The crew's efforts were further complicated by the fact that the ash cloud had obscured the stars, making it difficult to determine the aircraft's attitude and orientation. The flight instruments, though still functioning, were of limited use without visual references. As the aircraft descended through the ash cloud, the crew began to notice a faint glimmer of hope. The number 4 engine, which had been the first to fail, showed signs of life. The pressure and temperature gauges began to rise, and the engine spooled up, producing a faint but unmistakable roar. Encouraged by this development, the crew turned their attention to the remaining engines. One by one, they too began to restart, their familiar hum gradually returning. The aircraft's descent slowed, and the crew was able to level off at a safer altitude. The relief, however, was short-lived. The engines, though running, were far from their optimal performance. The ash had caused significant damage to the turbine blades, reducing their efficiency and making it difficult to maintain altitude. The crew knew that they would need to land as soon as possible, but the nearest suitable airport was Jakarta, still over 100 miles away. The journey to Jakarta would be fraught with challenges, as the crew would need to navigate through the ash cloud, manage the damaged engines, and ensure the safety of everyone on board. As Flight 9 continued its precarious journey, the passengers remained largely unaware of the full extent of the danger they were in. The crew's calm and professional demeanor helped to maintain a sense of order, but the tension was palpable. The cabin was dimly lit, the air thick with the smell of ash and sweat. Outside, the night sky was a void, the stars obscured by the ash cloud. The aircraft, now a fragile lifeline, pressed on through the darkness, its fate hanging in the balance. The events of that night would later be remembered as one of the most remarkable feats of airmanship in aviation history. The crew of Flight 9, faced with an almost unimaginable crisis, demonstrated extraordinary skill, composure, and determination. Their actions not only saved the lives of everyone on board, but also provided valuable lessons for the aviation industry, leading to improved procedures and technologies for dealing with volcanic ash. But for now, as the aircraft limped towards Jakarta, the outcome was still uncertain, and the night held its breath. The Boeing 747, now operating on 3 partially functional engines, continued its precarious journey toward Jakarta. The crew, though relieved to have regained some power, was acutely aware of the challenges that lay ahead. The aircraft was still enveloped in the volcanic ash cloud, its engines struggling against the abrasive particles that had already caused significant damage. The night outside was impenetrable, a void of darkness that seemed to stretch endlessly in every direction. Inside the cockpit, the atmosphere was tense but focused. Captain Eric Moody, Senior First Officer Roger Greaves, and Flight Engineer Barry Townley Freeman worked in unison, their training and experience guiding them through the crisis. The flight deck was a hive of activity. Captain Moody maintained a steady hand on the controls, his eyes darting between the instrument panel and the darkened windshield. The artificial horizon and altimeter were his lifelines, providing critical information about the aircraft's attitude and altitude. Senior First Officer Greaves monitored the engine parameters, his voice calm but urgent as he relayed updates to the captain. Flight Engineer Townley Freeman, seated behind them, focused on the fuel systems, electrical power, and cabin pressurization, ensuring that the aircraft's vital systems remained operational despite the strain. The passengers, though still largely unaware of the full extent of the danger, could sense that the situation was far from normal. The cabin was dimly lit, the overhead lights flickering intermittently as the electrical systems struggled to cope with the strain. The air conditioning had failed, causing the temperature inside the cabin to rise steadily. A thin layer of ash had begun to settle on the surfaces, giving the interior an eerie, ghostly appearance. The oxygen masks, which had dropped from the overhead compartments earlier, dangled unused, a stark reminder of the initial moments of crisis. Flight attendants moved through the aisles, their calm demeanor helping to reassure the passengers, though their own anxiety was evident in their eyes. Outside, the ash cloud continued to wreak havoc on the aircraft. The engines, though running, were far from their optimal performance. The volcanic ash had eroded the turbine blades, reducing their efficiency and making it difficult to maintain altitude. The crew had been forced to reduce power to prevent further damage, but this came at a cost. The aircraft was descending gradually, and the crew knew that they would need to reach Jakarta before their altitude became critical. The distance to the airport was still significant, and every minute counted. As the aircraft descended through the ash cloud, the crew began to notice subtle changes in their environment. The static discharges on the windshield, which had been a constant presence since entering the cloud, began to diminish. The faint glow of St. Elmo's fire, which had illuminated the wings and fuselage, faded into the darkness. These signs, though small, were encouraging. They indicated that the aircraft was beginning to emerge from the worst of the ash cloud, and the crew allowed themselves a glimmer of hope. The approach to Jakarta was fraught with challenges. The crew had been in contact with air traffic control, informing them of their situation and requesting priority for landing. The controllers in Jakarta, though initially unaware of the severity of the crisis, quickly mobilized to assist. Emergency services were placed on standby, and the airport was cleared to accommodate the stricken aircraft. The crew, however, still faced the daunting task of navigating the damaged aircraft to the runway. The descent was a delicate balancing act. The crew needed to maintain sufficient altitude to reach Jakarta, but they also had to avoid putting too much strain on the already damaged engines. The ash cloud, though thinning, was still a hazard, and the crew remained vigilant for any signs of further engine trouble. The flight instruments, though reliable, were of limited use without visual references, and the crew relied heavily on their training and instincts to guide the aircraft. As the aircraft descended through 20,000 feet, the crew began to notice a faint glimmer of light on the horizon. It was the first visual reference they had seen in hours, and it provided a much-needed boost to their morale. The lights of Jakarta, though still distant, were a beacon of hope, a sign that they were nearing safety. The crew adjusted their course, aligning the aircraft with the runway and beginning the final approach. The landing gear was lowered, and the flaps were extended, increasing the aircraft's drag and slowing its descent. The crew worked together, their movements precise and deliberate, as they prepared for the final phase of the flight. The passengers, sensing that the ordeal was nearing its end, remained calm but anxious. The cabin was silent, the only sound the faint hum of the engines and the rush of air outside. As the aircraft descended through 10,000 feet, the crew began to encounter a new challenge. The ash cloud, though thinning, was still present, and it had begun to affect the aircraft's visibility, the windshield already obscured by static. Discharges was now coated in a fine layer of ash, making it difficult to see the runway lights. Captain Moody relied on the instrument landing system, a ground-based navigation aid that provided guidance to the runway. The system, though reliable, was not a substitute for visual references, and the crew knew that they would need to see the runway to make a safe landing. The tension in the cockpit was palpable as the aircraft descended through the final few thousand feet. The crew's training and experience were put to the ultimate test as they navigated the damaged aircraft through the ash cloud and toward the runway. The passengers, though still unaware of the full extent of the danger, could sense that the situation was critical. The cabin was silent, the air thick with tension, as everyone on board held their breath. Finally, at an altitude of 1,000 feet, the crew caught their first clear glimpse of the runway. The lights of Jakarta, though dimmed by the ash cloud, were a welcome sight, and the crew adjusted their approach accordingly. The aircraft descended steadily, its engines straining against the weight and drag. The touchdown was smooth, a testament to the crew's skill and composure under pressure. The reverse thrusters engaged, slowing the aircraft as it rolled down the runway. The ordeal was over. As the aircraft came to a stop, the crew allowed themselves a moment of relief. The passengers, though shaken, remained calm, their trust in the crew unwavering. The flight attendants, their professionalism shining through, began to assist with the evacuation, ensuring that everyone exited the aircraft safely. Outside, emergency services were on hand to provide assistance, though their services were not needed. The crew of Flight 9 had done the impossible, guiding the damaged aircraft and its passengers to safety against all odds. The events of that night would later be remembered as one of the most remarkable feats of airmanship in aviation history. The crew's actions not only saved the lives of everyone on board, but also provided valuable lessons for the aviation industry. The incident led to improved procedures and technologies for dealing with volcanic ash, ensuring that future flights would be better equipped to handle such crises. But for now, as the passengers and crew disembarked in Jakarta, the focus was on recovery and reflection. The night had been long and harrowing, but they had made it through, a testament to the resilience and skill of all those involved. The Boeing 747, now stationary on the tarmac of Jakarta's Halim Perdanakusuma Airport, was a silent testament to the ordeal it had just endured. The once pristine aircraft, its gleaming white fuselage now streaked with ash and soot, bore the scars of its encounter with Mount Galunggung's volcanic plume. Emergency vehicles surrounded the plane, their flashing lights casting an eerie glow on the scene. Firefighters, paramedics, and airport personnel moved with practiced efficiency, though their services were not urgently required. The passengers, shaken but unharmed, disembarked slowly, their faces a mixture of relief, exhaustion, and disbelief. For many, the reality of what had just transpired was only beginning to sink in. Inside the terminal, the atmosphere was one of controlled chaos. Airport staff worked tirelessly to accommodate the sudden influx of passengers, many of whom were still processing the events of the flight. Blankets, water, and hot beverages were distributed, and makeshift seating areas were arranged to provide some semblance of comfort. Medical personnel conducted brief checkups, though there were no serious injuries to report. The passengers, though physically unharmed, were emotionally drained, their nerves frayed by the hours of uncertainty and fear. Some sat in silence, staring blankly into the distance, while others spoke in hushed tones, recounting their experiences to anyone who would listen. The crew of Flight 9, though equally exhausted, remained professional and composed. Captain Eric Moody, Senior First Officer Roger Greaves, and Flight Engineer Barry Townley Freeman were ushered into a private room for debriefing. Their faces, though lined with fatigue, reflected a quiet pride in what they had accomplished. They had faced an unprecedented crisis and emerged victorious, their skill and determination saving the lives of everyone on board. The debriefing was thorough and methodical, as aviation officials sought to understand the sequence of events and gather data that could prevent similar incidents in the future. The crew's account of the flight, detailed and precise, would become a cornerstone of aviation safety protocols. As the hours passed, the story of Flight 9 began to spread. News outlets, alerted to the incident by airport authorities, descended on Halim Perdanakusuma, their cameras and microphones capturing the aftermath of the harrowing flight. Passengers, many of whom were still in shock, found themselves thrust into the spotlight, their faces and voices broadcast to a global audience. The media's portrayal of the incident was dramatic, with headlines proclaiming the miracle of Jakarta and hailing the crew as heroes. For the passengers, the attention was both overwhelming and surreal, a stark contrast to the quiet anonymity they had enjoyed just hours earlier. In the days that followed, the investigation into the incident began in earnest. Aviation experts, meteorologists, and volcanologists worked together to piece together the events of that fateful night. The volcanic ash cloud, which had been the catalyst for the crisis, was analyzed in detail, its composition and behavior providing valuable insights into the hazards posed by such phenomena. The aircraft itself, though damaged, was a treasure trove of information. Its engines, coated in a fine layer of ash, were examined meticulously, their condition offering clues about the effects of volcanic ash on jet engines. The flight data, recorders recovered from the aircraft, provided a minute-by-minute account of the flight, their data corroborating the crew's testimony. The findings of the investigation were both sobering and enlightening. It became clear that the aviation industry's understanding of volcanic ash was woefully inadequate. The ash cloud, though invisible to the naked eye and undetectable by weather radar, had posed a significant threat to Flight 9. The abrasive particles had eroded the engine turbine blades, causing them to fail, while the ash's electrical properties had disrupted the aircraft's systems. The incident highlighted the need for better detection methods, improved training for pilots, and enhanced communication between aviation authorities and volcanic monitoring agencies. For the passengers and crew of Flight 9, the incident was a life-changing experience. Many of the passengers, though grateful to have survived, found themselves grappling with the psychological aftermath of the ordeal. Nightmares, anxiety, and a heightened fear of flying were common, and some sought counseling to help them process their emotions. The crew, though hailed as heroes, faced their own challenges. The weight of responsibility, the knowledge that they had been moments away from disaster, lingered in their minds. Yet, they also found solace in the knowledge that their actions had made a difference, that their skill and composure had saved lives. The aviation industry, too, was forever changed by the events of Flight 9. The incident served as a wake-up call, prompting a reevaluation of safety protocols and procedures. New guidelines were introduced to help pilots recognize and respond to volcanic ash encounters, while advances in technology led to the development of improved detection systems. The incident also fostered greater collaboration between the aviation and volcanology communities, ensuring that future eruptions would be met with a coordinated and informed response. As the years passed, the story of Flight 9 became a part of aviation lore, a testament to the resilience and ingenuity of those who take to the skies. The passengers and crew, though scattered across the globe, remained connected by their shared experience, their bond forged in the crucible of crisis. For Captain Moody, Senior First Officer Greaves, and Flight Engineer Townley Freeman, the incident was a defining moment in their careers, a reminder of the importance of preparation, teamwork, and courage. Their actions on that night in 1982 not only saved lives but also paved the way for a safer and more informed aviation industry. And so, as the sun rose over Jakarta, casting its golden light on the tarmac where Flight 9 had come to rest, the world moved forward, forever changed by the events of that fateful night. The Boeing 747, though scarred and battered, stood as a symbol of human resilience, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable challenges, the spirit of determination and the will to survive can prevail. The story of Flight 9, though born of crisis, would endure as a beacon of hope and a testament to the power of human ingenuity. In the months and years that followed the harrowing events of British Airways Flight 9, the aviation industry underwent a profound transformation. The incident, which had once been a near catastrophe, became a catalyst for change, sparking a global reevaluation of how aircraft and their crews respond to the invisible yet deadly threat of volcanic ash. The story of Flight 9, etched into the annals of aviation history, was no longer just a tale of survival. It was a blueprint for progress, a reminder of the importance of preparedness, innovation, and collaboration. The investigation into the incident yielded critical insights that reshaped the way the world approached volcanic ash hazards. Scientists and engineers pored over the data collected from the aircraft's flight recorders, the damaged engines, and the volcanic plume itself. What emerged was a clearer understanding of how volcanic ash interacts with jet engines. The fine abrasive particles, when ingested by the engines, had melted in the combustion chambers, coating the turbine blades with a glass-like substance. This buildup disrupted airflow, causing the engines to flame out. The ash also interfered with the aircraft's electrical systems, creating static discharges and impairing visibility. These findings underscored the need for better detection methods and more robust engine designs. One of the most significant outcomes of the investigation was the development of new protocols for volcanic ash avoidance. Prior to Flight 9, pilots had little guidance on how to handle encounters with volcanic ash. The incident highlighted the importance of real-time communication between aviation authorities and volcanic monitoring agencies. In response, the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, established the International Airways Volcano Watch, IAVW, a global network designed to provide timely information about volcanic activity to airlines and pilots. Volcanic ash advisory centers, VAACs, were established in key regions around the world, tasked with monitoring volcanic eruptions and issuing alerts to the aviation community. Technological advancements also played a crucial role in mitigating the risks posed by volcanic ash. Weather radar systems, which had proven ineffective in detecting ash clouds, were upgraded to better distinguish between ash and ordinary weather phenomena. Satellite technology, too, became an invaluable tool, allowing scientists to track volcanic plumes in real time and predict their movement. Airlines began equipping their aircraft with enhanced sensors and communication systems, enabling pilots to receive up-to-date information about volcanic activity while in flight. These innovations, born out of necessity, significantly improved the safety of air travel in volcanic regions. For the crew of Flight 9, the incident marked a turning point in their careers. Captain Eric Moody, Senior First Officer Roger Greaves, and Flight Engineer Barry Townley Freeman were celebrated as heroes, their actions lauded by the aviation community and the public alike. They became sought-after speakers at aviation conferences, sharing their experiences and emphasizing the importance of training, teamwork, and composure in the face of crisis. Their story served as a powerful reminder of the human element in aviation, the skill, judgment, and courage that can mean the difference between disaster and survival. The passengers of Flight 9, too, found their lives forever changed by the experience. For many, the incident was a wake-up call, a reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of cherishing every moment. Some passengers formed lasting bonds, united by their shared ordeal and the profound gratitude they felt toward the crew. Others channeled their experience into advocacy, working to raise awareness about the dangers of volcanic ash and the need for continued investment in aviation safety. Their voices, amplified by the media attention surrounding the incident, helped to ensure that the lessons of Flight 9 were not forgotten. The aircraft itself, GBDXH, became a symbol of resilience. After undergoing extensive repairs and inspections, it was returned to service, continuing to fly for British Airways for many years. Though it bore no outward signs of its brush with disaster, those who knew its history regarded it with a sense of reverence. The aircraft's eventual retirement marked the end of an era, but its legacy lived on in the lessons it had taught and the lives it had touched. The broader impact of Flight 9 extended beyond the aviation industry. The incident sparked a renewed interest in volcanology, leading to increased funding for research and monitoring. Scientists gained a deeper understanding of volcanic behavior, enabling them to predict eruptions with greater accuracy and provide more timely warnings to affected communities. The collaboration between volcanologists and aviation experts set a precedent for interdisciplinary cooperation, demonstrating the value of shared knowledge in addressing complex challenges. As the NDSE years passed, the story of Flight 9 became a staple of aviation training programs. Pilots and flight crews around the world studied the incident, learning from the crew's actions and the lessons that had been gleaned from the investigation. Simulators were updated to include volcanic ash scenarios, allowing pilots to practice responding to such emergencies in a controlled environment. The incident also inspired a new generation of aviation professionals who saw in the story of Flight 9 a testament to the power of human ingenuity and the importance of continuous improvement. For the people of Indonesia, the incident served as a reminder of the dual nature of their volcanic landscape. Mount Galunggung, which had once been a source of destruction, became a symbol of resilience and renewal. The eruption, though devastating, had also enriched the soil, fostering new growth and sustaining the livelihoods of those who lived in its shadow. The story of Flight 9, intertwined with the history of the volcano, became a part of the region's cultural fabric, a tale of survival and solidarity that resonated deeply with the local population. In the end, the legacy of Flight 9 was one of hope and progress. The incident, though born of crisis, had sparked a wave of innovation and collaboration that made the skies safer for millions of travelers. It was a reminder that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges, humanity has the capacity to learn, adapt, and overcome. The story of Flight 9, etched into the collective memory of the aviation community, stood as a testament to the power of perseverance and the enduring spirit of exploration. And as the world continued to take to the skies, it did so with a renewed sense of confidence, knowing that the lessons of that fateful night would guide it safely through the storms ahead. Years turned into decades, but the story of British Airways, Flight 9, remained etched in the collective memory of the aviation world and beyond. What began as a near tragedy over the skies of Indonesia had evolved into a powerful narrative of human resilience, innovation, and the unyielding pursuit of safety. The incident, once a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities of air travel, had become a cornerstone of modern aviation practices, its lessons reverberating through every corner of the industry. By the early 21st century, the advancements spurred by Flight 9 had become standard practice. Volcanic Ash Advisory Centers, VAACs, operated around the clock, their networks of satellites, ground sensors, and communication systems providing real-time updates on volcanic activity. Pilots, now equipped with sophisticated weather radar and ash detection technology, were better prepared than ever to navigate around hazardous plumes. Training programs for flight crews included detailed modules on volcanic ash encounters, emphasizing the importance of swift decision-making and precise execution. The once invisible threat of volcanic ash had been brought into the light, its dangers mitigated by the collective efforts of scientists, engineers, and aviation professionals. The crew of Flight 9, though retired from active flying, continued to be celebrated as pioneers of aviation safety. Captain Eric Moody, Senior First Officer Roger Greaves, and Flight Engineer Barry Townley Freeman became legends in their own right, their names synonymous with courage and professionalism. They were frequently invited to speak at aviation conferences, where their first-hand account of the incident captivated audiences and inspired new generations of pilots. Their story was not just one of survival, but of transformation, a testament to how a single event could reshape an entire industry. For the passengers of Flight 9, the passage of time brought a mix of reflection and gratitude. Many of them remained, in touch, bound by the shared experience that had forever altered their lives. Reunions were held, some organized by British Airways, others by the passengers themselves. These gatherings were emotional affairs, filled with laughter, tears, and the retelling of stories that had grown richer with time. For some, the incident had been a turning point, prompting them to pursue new careers, mend broken relationships, or embrace a deeper appreciation for life. For others, it was a reminder of the fragility of existence and the importance of living each day to the fullest. The aircraft, GBDXH, had long since been retired from service, but its legacy endured. After its repairs following the incident, it continued to fly for British Airways for over a decade, a silent witness to the countless journeys it facilitated. When it was finally decommissioned, parts of the aircraft were preserved in museums, their presence serving as a tangible link to the past. The story of Flight 9 was often recounted beside these exhibits, ensuring that future generations would remember the bravery of its crew and the lessons learned from that fateful night. The broader impact of Flight 9 extended far beyond the aviation industry. The incident had highlighted the interconnectedness of the modern world, demonstrating how a volcanic eruption in one corner of the globe could have far-reaching consequences. It spurred greater collaboration between nations, with governments, and organizations working together to monitor volcanic activity and share information. The lessons of Flight 9 also found resonance in other fields, from disaster preparedness to environmental science, underscoring the importance of vigilance, innovation, and cooperation in the face of natural hazards. In Indonesia, the legacy of Flight 9 was deeply intertwined with the story of Mount Galunggung. The volcano, once feared for its destructive power, had become a symbol of resilience and renewal. The ash that had once threatened lives now enriched the soil, supporting agriculture and sustaining communities. The region around the volcano, once scarred by the eruption, had been transformed into a lush landscape of terraced fields and vibrant forests. For the people who lived in its shadow, the story of Flight 9 was a reminder of their own strength and adaptability, a testament to the enduring bond between humanity and the natural world. As the years passed, the story of Flight 9 continued to inspire. It was recounted in documentaries, books, and academic papers, each retelling adding new layers of understanding and appreciation. The incident became a case study in crisis management, its lessons applied not just in aviation, but in fields as diverse as healthcare, engineering, and business. The crew's actions were held up as a model of leadership under pressure, their calmness and decisiveness serving as a blueprint for how to navigate uncertainty and adversity. For the aviation industry, the legacy of Flight 9 was a source of pride and progress. The incident had been a turning point, a moment of reckoning that had spurred a wave of innovation and improvement. The skies were safer now, not just because of better technology and procedures, but because of the collective commitment to learning from the past. The story of Flight 9 was a reminder that safety was not a destination, but a journey, one that required constant vigilance, collaboration, and a willingness to adapt. And so, as the sun set on another day, its golden light reflecting off the wings of aircraft soaring through the skies, the echoes of Flight 9 could still be heard. They were in the hum of engines, the chatter of air traffic control, the quiet confidence of pilots and crew. They were in the stories told by passengers, the lessons taught in classrooms, the innovations born in laboratories. They were in the resilience of communities, the spirit of exploration, the unyielding belief in the power of human ingenuity. The story of Flight 9 was not just about a single flight or a single night. It was about the enduring human spirit, the capacity to rise above adversity, and the relentless pursuit of a safer, better world. And as long as there were skies to conquer and challenges to face, that story would continue to inspire, reminding us all of the heights we can reach when we work together.